Hey, Mommy, welcome to the Mami Collective Podcast. I'm Paulina Roe, and this is your space, the no BS, all vibes podcast for ambitious moms who know that motherhood and big dreams go hand in hand. Whether you're killing it in the boardroom, hustling on your side gig, or just trying to get through the day without reheating your coffee for the third time, and yes, girl, we've all been there, this is the place for you. We're here to flip the script on the whole you can't have it all narrative, because spoiler alert, you can. Motherhood doesn't dim your ambition, it actually fuels it. And we're going to talk all about it, the wins, the struggles, and the moments that make you say, damn, I am really doing this. So buckle up, boo. We're diving into real talk, inspiration, and the occasional hot take to keep you fired up and thriving. This is the Mami Collective. Let's do this. Just diving into it today. Whitney Reynolds, welcome to Mami Collective. How are you?
I am so good. Getting ready for this interview, it's not like normal ones because, I was thinking about it. Like, we're not really talking about my show for the first time. We're talking about all the chaos of motherhood. And wait, there is no way to prepare. And that's the same way I felt when they said, there's baby A and baby B in the ultrasound.
Oh my God. Yes, we have to talk about that. So, yes, Whitney Reynolds is here. You are a TV talk show host, media personality, podcast host, author, executive producer, and philanthropist. And that is a lot. You wear a lot of hats. And a mother, of course.
Yes. Mother is my favorite title. It's weird because as I've grown as a media personality, those other titles that come along with executive producer and host just kind of trailed. But it's funny when people read it out, I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I doing here?
Oh yeah, 100%. And I just also feel like for someone like you, as also another media mom, I look up to you so much. And my first question, first things first is, being a mom and doing it all, right? Is that something that you believe in? Or what are your thoughts around that, right? Like the whole you can have it all thing. Because I think we can, but I think it's got to be done every mom has a different journey. Every mom's got a different way of quote doing it all. So I kind of want to know what your thoughts are about that quote.
Well, it's interesting because if you would have asked me when I was in the throes of having newborn twins and then where I am now, I actually wasn't completely truthful of how many plates we were spinning and how messy it got at times because when I felt like I could be vulnerable in different settings in Chicago, there were so many people in different situations that didn't subscribe to my spinning of plates that I kind of kept it to myself. My husband and I kind of kept our little method of how we did it to us until we got out of it. And now I'm very open about it because, we never had a nanny. And I got the call in 2021 to go national. So let me walk the listeners back. In 2016, that's when my kids were born. So by the time I got the call to go national, they were 5. But I had been pushing for it for so long. But this goes to this inner thought of your time is always on time. Because if I would have been national when they were little, I wouldn't have been able to do all I did in those 5 years before they went off to kindergarten. And so we never had a nanny. There was a thing called Export Gym, and they would give you 2 hours of free childcare for members. Like I said, I did not tell people this until we got out of it. And it was so funny because with babies, they nap a lot. And so we really worked that to our advantage to work during the napping hours and to also work on the treadmill for about 5 minutes at Export and then get another hour and 55 minutes when they were awake in the little playroom at the gym. And then we would come home and have lunch and then they would take another nap and I would get back to, the other stuff with the show. And so for 5 years, we did that method and then 2 days of daycare. And I'm still to this day, I don't know how we did it, but it saved us a ton of money. 1, 2, it also allowed me to be creative and really be mom when I was mom. And then 3, I look back on it and I'm like, job well done, Whit and Dave. Dave's a really good dad too. So that also helps. But if I would have told people that, no, I don't have a nanny, I have a thing called Export Naps, they would have been like, oh my gosh. But now I'm super proud of it. We did. We got creative. We also we were able to add really important people to like our chosen family is how I call it. So a lot of the people that were not their nanny, but were around us a lot had different skills, not just babysitting infants or watching infants, but they were able to do other things that really aligned them with our family long term. Some of which now have become moms, and I have got to sew into their kids, which is really beautiful. But no, those first few years were really crazy. But then when the kids were going off to kindergarten, that's when I got the call to go national. So that really changed it up. And it also changed my way of saying, now is the time to add more people to my team. So when they get out of school at 3:15, I can be their mother. And I really work hard at that to be like present when I'm with them. And that really, that moment came when they actually went into public schooling for kindergarten. Yes. A boy and a girl. We are crazy. You know, twins ran in my family, but my older sister always said she was going to have the twins. And so I just fell in line with that concept. And whenever Dave and I started trying to have kids, we took it very serious. I had a lot of friends that struggled with fertility. And so whenever we decided we wanted to get pregnant, I quit having that glass of wine. I really worked on my diet and sleep, and we got pregnant with boy girl twins month one, which was believe it or not, as luck would have it, twins are super aggressive in our family that my little sister also has boy girl twins. I know. I know. I warned her because she had already an infant and wanted to get pregnant again with like Irish twins. And I said, wait a second, they are really in our family line. Because both my grandmas, one of them was a twin, one of them had twins. So it's a very, the more I started investigating how I got pregnant with twins, the more I was like, oh my gosh, it was surrounding us the whole time. I should have known this would probably happen. Yeah, so that's the thing is I love the Lord and I would consider myself a very, very good girl at times. But I definitely looked at them when they said baby B and a really bad word came out of my mouth in that moment. You know, I'll put in an extra word that was not the one there, but I was like, "Oh, fart." And I was like, "Oh my gosh," because it didn't change the plan, but I am so type A. And I think a lot of people that manage a lot of different aspects to business are type A. And that was something I was never. I mean, I even wore my pearls in for the ultrasound because I was like, this is the first time he or she is going to meet mom. I want to make a good impression. And then when they said there's baby A, I'm like, okay, they must say, they must call every baby baby A. And then we're like, wait, 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 but there's baby B. And I'm like, what? And that's when it came out. And then people all thought we were playing a joke on them. We were not. Our whole mind had to change because you have to wrap your head around like if they're the same gender, do you go for it again and maybe have twins again? Do like all those different things, like everything's times two. Our house that we lived in at the time was much smaller. And so we had to kind of think, how do we fit two humans in this house that we thought we were just going to bring one home to? And again, motherhood changes you as a person. It changed me. Like I used to be borderline too skinny. And, when you're pregnant with twins and the doctor tells you it's your job to eat, you do it and you start learning that it's not about you anymore. It's about these little humans that are going to be a part of us for the rest of our lives. Well, it was one of those things of I just had to kind of put on, like if you think when we were younger and you played basketball and they were trying to teach you how to dribble, they would sometimes put those like blinder glasses on you just to keep focused. And that's what I really did. Like, I went back to that thought of not telling people how we were doing motherhood, but even like when we were making our way through the early days, like not letting people weigh in, I one of my kids latched very well and one of them didn't. So I decided to pump. And that was a big decision that a lot of people, if I would have chatted with them against, that would have been against. And, back in the day when I pumped, I would be on Lakeshore Drive with my little pump hooked into the cigarette lighter. Apparently now they make them where they just go in your bra or whatever, but that was not me. I was like pumping on LSD, driving down, hoping I didn't get any stoplights. And it was one of those things that I just kind of had to make my own way and stick to it and sign that contract with myself to be like, you're doing this.
100%. And I actually was pumping too. And you're right. They make portable ones now, which is so funny.
So
because I'd be on the radio. I know I'd be on the radio when I was pumping like months ago, and I would just like silently be pumping, and everyone's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Well, I gotta do what I gotta do because this is starting to hurt."
I know, and I love it. Yeah, it would have changed my life if I could have done that. I just remember having to be in a car, and I was like up. My studio at the time was in Edgewater, and I was like, got a stoplight, and I was like, oh boy, it's coming down right now.
Oh, God, that feeling. I can't even imagine. Oh, so, talking about your work in media, and obviously you're an amazing storyteller, which I think is so incredible. How has becoming a mother influenced the way that you approach your work, right? And your storytelling as well?
Yeah, so it's really transformed a lot of aspects of like the scope of work I'm covering. It's also really important that when you tell deep stories like I do, that I have a cleansing after I'm done with the interview, that I don't hold on to that energy, because that could also impact my family. Because it's one thing to be like on a mission to change the world through media, but you got to make sure in the course of that mission that it's not hurting you as the storyteller. And so that's been something I've had to learn, is like my ways I decompress after the interview. And then also just with scouting of stories, some of the different ones are coming to me now because I think I'm more of an empathetic person than I was before being a mom. And, there are some stories that I've wanted to stay away from because I am a mom, because it just hits too close to home. But when I was giving my TED Talk at Wrigley, one of those came up about getting this story across my desk of a mom that her son was murdered by her estranged husband, and then he tried to kill her. And, it was very, very soon after I delivered. Like if I would have been a normal employee for somebody else, I would have probably still been on my maternity leave. So it was not a story I wanted to cover, but it literally woke me up in the middle of the night saying, no, Whitney, you need to do this one, and you need to be that voice for that mom. And so it's kind of like learning that balance. And then also like when that story is done, also not holding on to that, because we can do that. You watch the news, your blood pressure can spike. How do you be surrounded by difficult stories and not hold them on? So that's like a practice I've been working on.
Oh, that is so real and so authentic for you to say, because I do think we get so wrapped up, in when you work in media, in stories, because you want to be that voice, right? You want to give a platform to somebody to share their story. And I think sometimes we forget that these can be very heavy. And then what happens is, you come home and it kind of trickles into the family. So I respect you so much for doing that, because I never realized that, that you have to kind of dissociate. You have to sort of draw the line when you come home. I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, that one took me a little bit longer to learn, but it definitely, when I connected the dots of that
Someone's
impact.
at the front door doorbell.
I'm sorry, the doorbell rang. Of course.
No,
Keep ringing the
see, look
doorbell.
at us.
Understand why? Like, leave the package.
Yeah, juggling it all. But yeah, when I figured out that was something I needed to do, it was like, okay, that dot point was a really strong one in my life.
100%. I agree. So Whitney, as far as your kind of journey, being a mom, what's the most valuable lesson that you hope to pass on to your children? And how do you incorporate that into your parenting today?
I think just being a kind human is something that is totally overlooked in today's culture, because we've gotten so lofty with these goals and how do we really leave a legacy? And at the end of the day, if my kids can be kind humans, and I mean kind to the grocery store person that they might never see again, kind to the person that fell on the street corner and they don't know him and they helped him up, or kind to the person that is a big naughty word that maybe talked bad about them at school, and they can still find a way to give grace and love to people, even in tough situations. That would be my biggest thing. And to be completely transparent, they get to see that work in motion with me because I am not there. Like, and people, with my show sometimes put me in this category of, you know, being, one of the nicest people. And, that's one of the things I have to work on. At the end of the day, I'm still human. But if I can be a good person, like, and if I'm not today, then I'm going to be a better one tomorrow. But that's really just something that as I've gotten older, because, too, like in media and like growth and all these things that come along with our jobs, the world can tell us a lot of narratives of how we should be. And it's really going back to that, little kid in Oklahoma that needed a safe space for stories that formed the show, that I'm like, I'm doing it for that kid, but if I can do it for all the other kids and be kind and share just like the grace and love within the day, then that's winning to me.
100% agree with you. 100%. Can you share a challenge that you faced when it came to like balancing motherhood and your professional life and sort of how you overcame that? I think we struggle a lot with that as moms, professional working moms. We do struggle with that.
Yeah, I mean, I just go back to like this notion of everybody telling me about their nannies and their private schools and their house cleaners and it was all kind of money oriented. And when I peeled the layer back and I realized that you don't have to, it was definitely just a comparison thing, and that's all that it was holding in my head. And why they felt the need to share how they were doing it, maybe it was, offering advice or whatever. But that was probably my biggest struggle, is just doing things my own way, and being okay with how I did them, because it came back full circle. Now my kids are in our dream school, which is still Chicago Public Schools. They didn't start that way, but it's now gotten that way. And not just that, but like I got all that time with them when they were kids, a lot of community, like time with them in our little unit. It also, like, saving the money that we would have spent on other things then allowed us to buy a lake cottage, which is where we're creating tons of QT now, building tree homes. So I just think like, and I think it could have been, when you're growing professionally too, the different rooms you're in, there's a lot of different people that have either been in that room for a long time, or have been trying to climb or claw their way into that. And so in order to stay in there, they push out their shoulders and, their elbows, and try to tell you that's the way it should be. And so I think just understanding for me that I'm doing things very differently, and that's okay, and it's working for us.
Yeah.
That was my biggest struggle. And then on this side of it though, now that they're in third grade, I feel like there's no other way I would have done it. But I remember being like, oh, honey, it sounds so nice that people have a night nurse, or it sounds so nice that, I don't know. It was just a lot of comparison that went on. And I wish I just could have sideloaded that out a lot more when they were little, especially with, and another thing is like postpartum anxiety and I never had postpartum depression, but I definitely had postpartum anxiety. And that's like a real thing. So it kind of heightens everything, where you could, if you were already kind of an anxious person, just heightens that. And so things that maybe you wouldn't have been so crazy about, you're a little more crazy about. So I think just getting out of that phase in my life of the comparison and how other people said I needed to do it really helped me.
100%. Did you ever feel like you would catch yourself on social media as well, doing the whole comparison trap thing? I feel like I do that a lot.
Well, that's very, very, very true. That happened to me when I first started my career. And it was before kids, actually. I remember being very upset that Instagram didn't give me a blue check mark a long time ago, before it was even like a thing. And it was weird, because I think that phase of my life hit me a lot earlier, because I guess when I had the kids, a lot of things shifted, and even timing, and but before kids, I remember being really upset about social media because I wasn't growing in the ways. And honestly, I think kids also helped me with my social media, because I've realized where I'm successful on social media. So I don't do TikTok. I wasn't successful on that one. I probably, I'm also not going to try to be doing viral videos like trends or funny mom memes or anything like that. That's not really my lane. And so I really found my rhythm to what works well on Instagram for me. And that's been really a go-to. And it's been a huge wing of my business now that I think about it.
Oh my God. See, and I love social media. Like, I know sometimes it can be, I don't know what the word is. It can kind of bring me in a not so great space at times, just because I feel like it's too much, right? We're like over consuming, in my opinion.
Right.
But I do think it's been a really great tool, even for like being a mom. I've learned
Yes.
so much from other moms like yourself and just so many other moms. And then I've learned stuff from social media. So I think it's
Yes.
cool.
I save so many things on social, like from Instagram, of like from recipes to, even connecting with my girlfriends that I've been best friends with since kindergarten from Oklahoma. Like those friendship videos that make me tear up always get me. So I'm like, oh, that lifelong friend. And so I send it to her. But no, social media was a game changer for us originally, because when I launched the Whitney Reynolds show, it was Weekends with Whitney at the time. And the whole reason I got the opportunity to own my own show on NBC nonstop was because I had a following from Facebook, believe it or not. Back in the day, it was like over 15 years ago now, which was crazy.
Oh my God, that does sound crazy.
Yeah.
But honestly, a lot of people like they came up with like Facebook or Pinterest and like YouTube, and then they've just kind of moved, to Instagram and TikTok, which is so fascinating to me.
Yes, absolutely.
I love. So Whitney, as far as, the joyous road of motherhood, what aspects have you like found surprising or surprised you the most, whether it was personally or professionally, but what aspects of motherhood have surprised you?
I think just how much you can really love somebody other than yourself. Because, I felt like I always loved my husband well, but like these two kids, and, I put on the full armor last year, and I didn't even realize how much and how deep the love went until one of my kids was getting bullied. And it wasn't in a way where my kid was having effects at home of like, I don't want to go to school, but my kid would still want to hang out with the kid, and he was getting hurt. And I'm like, oh my goodness. And then it started happening to other kids and my other child as well. So, I never realized what a mother hen I am until someone messed with my kid. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, I was willing to put anything on the line, even, like, because it's weird, like when you're in television too, like your reputation's really important, like especially when you're in the kind of show I'm in, where I'm not a gossip talk show. I'm all about breathing life into things. Like every room, every story, every show I'm in, I want people to walk away inspired and ready to go change the world. But this was a moment where none of that really mattered, in the sense of my kid needed my help, and I am his advocate at the end of the day, whether or not he can advocate for himself. And so I was amazed with how that armor just came on me, and it didn't matter that I needed to have difficult conversations with the parents, the school, the network chief. Like it didn't matter at that moment. Like it happened, and I had to make a new way for my kids.
Well, 100%. I mean, it's the, like you said, the mama hen in you, you
Oh
know what
yeah.
I mean? Because I feel the same way. One thing that I say that I've changed or I've sort of, I don't know, evolved is my people pleasing tendencies, because I am
Yeah.
a people pleaser and I like don't have time to be anymore. So I'm
Right.
like, I can't
Exactly.
do
Yeah.
it. So funny.
The other weird aspect that it taught me too is just how, like, it opened my eyes to the needs. And it's not that being a mother is a disability at all, but think about it. When we're lugging the gear and we're needing changing stations and we're needing
Mm.
stroller doors, ramps, my heart opened for the disabled community too, because I'm like, this is something that like I'm dealing with for 2-3 years with a stroller, or for needing a changing station, and like, or a rail for, you know all the different scenarios for my kids to walk down the stairs. And it really opened my eyes to, the needs of other people that could permanently have something where they're needing these extra accessibility points.
I never thought of it that way, but that's very true. Because even like as a mom, like now when I went to the airport, right? We went to Hawaii, and I took her to the bathroom to change her diaper. I never in my life cared if there was a baby changing station.
Right.
Like I didn't give a crap. And now I'm like, I literally said it to the door of the bathroom. I was like, I'm so grateful that I opened the bathroom stall and there's a damn changing table. Yeah,
Totally. Totally. I was always one that gave a lot of feedback too when there wasn't one. And I was changing my twins like on some makeshift knee bed that I was creating myself as I'm trying to do their diaper. I'm like, oh my gosh.
literally, oh my God. No, but that was a great point that you made too. It's like it opened my eyes to just, so many other things and so many other just, I guess things that we don't really realize or recognize, right?
Right.
Just living day to day. And now I'm like, wow, that's wild, but great point. So, as far as you and, kind of like just other moms who want to break into media, or, kind of just admire what you do, right? What would you tell them as far as advice, as
Yeah.
far as getting, into media, but also trying to balance that ambitious career with motherhood, whatever that career might be?
I truly subscribe to this now because like going back to when we were talking about when I was younger and social media, I was like all like nervous, like, am I growing? Am I not? Am I not? But if I could have told myself at a young age, like, you are the only one with this gift that you possess, Whitney, or let's say there's someone named Emily listening today. Emily, you are the one with your gift. If people can identify their God-given gift here, I'm telling you, and they know what it is and they apply that, there's no stopping you. And I know that sounds like easy, the cheap seats, because I am where I am now, but there's no one like once I realized that there is no other Whitney,
Yeah.
that's what made me be like, even if I get a no, there's gonna be a yes. And as long as I can be my best yes and know that this talent was given to me and push for it, then there's really no stopping you. And so that's like, I think so often we want to be what we see or we want to emulate what we think is the way. And if we just can be authentically ourselves, and you're very good at that, by the way, you are one of those people that has always been you. And I love that about you. And that's what I think like it makes, people go to the top faster is because you're not blending. You are being true to yourself and people fall in love with that. And that's true talent.
Oh my God, you are so sweet. And I feel the same about you. Like you and I connected, I think, years ago. And I'm so happy that, you were giving me your time today to do this podcast. I know we're talking about a whole different thing now, which is motherhood, which is so
I
new to
love it.
me. But like you and like all these other moms, like you guys just for me personally have paved the way
Oh,
so just beautifully that I'm like, I am so thankful that, you guys were able to kind of show me that I can do both. And that's why I started the
yeah.
podcast. You know what I mean?
You can. And that's what I think a lot of people forget is that it's going to be, you just take it literally day by day in the course of like, that's what my husband and I did. Like, I remember when we found out we were having twins, it was like, okay, those first months, like to get to month 9 was a lot, but we took it like, we celebrated the different milestones. And I think if people can do that and say, yeah, I can do this. Don't think of it, the big picture of like, where are they going to be when 18 years from now, but more so just like be in that moment totally. And you'll learn to like and love those steps along the way even more if you can do that.
100%. And again, like I think you do it so well. And I know not
Oh,
every day is rainbow and
yeah,
sunshine. Like I'm
no.
so aware of that, especially as like a new mom. I'm like, it's not easy. Like this is the hardest job I've ever had. I don't know if you feel the same.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. And just like the whole lofty goal of like raising good humans too. It's like, like that's like important. That's very important. So, and it's really odd for me because I'm seeing it a boy and a girl at the same time. And it is mind boggling to me how different boys and girls are and how I actually married a man now. I'm like, what? Because we are all so different. Oh my gosh.
Oh my God, 100%. How is that, by the way? Like raising twins, right? Obviously a boy and a girl. Kind of talk about, what do you love about it and kind of what are the challenges with that?
Yeah. So the biggest challenge I would say is like kind of the obvious in the sense of like you're not getting that one-on-one time like mothers do with their first, or I never had that moment. Like it was always, you're always two arms with the two carriers and the doctor's appointment. One is getting the shot and you're, holding the other with with your other arm as one's crying. And so it was a lot of that, like, but I had to learn to not feel sorry for myself in that because again, people can say things and they don't even realize they say them, but they're like, "Oh, I just love the one-on-one time I'm getting with my one," or I wouldn't have changed having that one first, and it's just, I never had a different, that's all I knew was two. And so I just had to like kind of embrace it and then really chisel out time for me to be deliberate with each of them. And then naturally I gravitate towards girls more because I'm a girl, I think, and my daughter and I have a very, very special bond. But I've had to work on finding that way that my son and I had those special moments. And it's really been cool because I think I would have been just as good a boy mom now if I would have had him only. But that took a little bit of time to like learn how to be a good boy mom.
Yeah, 100%. I feel like with you, and I love your vulnerability, so thank you for sharing that. I feel like, a mom like yourself, who has twins, like I would have to imagine the hardest thing would be, time. And for me, like I say this now, but I'm a one and done kind of girl. I feel like I'm very content with one.
Yes.
And but my thing is, and I say this all the time, is like if I have another one, am I going to be able to give, my daughter the same because she's born first, give her, the same amount of time if we choose to have another or a third. And I definitely think, again, it goes back to the balance, right? Of like being able to, like you and I talked about, having this career and still being able to be, this really amazing mother, but also like, yeah, like prioritizing your time with your children and having that special bond with them. So whether it's twins or multiples, whatever it might be, right?
Right. It's wild because you're exactly right. And that's what I also realized is like, yeah, people might have that one-on-one time with their one, but as soon as they have the second, they're all doing the juggle too. And so, and some people choose just to have one. I'm kind of with you. One sounds very glamorous and very nice.
Oh,
Um, but, but then again, that too is all I've known. And so it's just like understanding the juggle. And then as my kids have gotten older, like my biggest thing is like when they are in trouble, really, really take the time to let them know why. Like, don't just brush over it and say, oh, you're grounded for 5 minutes and da 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 da. It's like so important to like look them in the eye, take that time. Like, even if we're like late for, a dinner at our club on Michigan Avenue, I'm like, wait, I get down at their level and I let them know, like, this is not okay. And here's your consequence. And that's been huge for me as they're, now 8.
yeah. Oh, yeah. When the thing is too, like your twins are, you said in third grade, right?
Yes.
So I feel like that's got to be like, it's got to be like a fun age, Obviously, like I think every phase or age is really fun as well. But I'm not gonna lie, I am looking forward to like my daughter like going to school and like
Yes.
experiencing those, memories with her. So I love that.
I love that too. And that's what I loved every season with them. I mean, I really loved the baby season, especially once I could remember like what it was like to get out of bed and go again. Because I felt like the first 3 months, I don't remember any of the first 3 months, but
No.
I have picture proof that I was alive and survived and was smiling. But but I do think it's one of those things that like just embracing every season because you're only going to get that one time with them in that. And then David's great grandma is 90 something. And I was with her over this last weekend and it was really cute because I said, Grandma, I'm not sad that they're getting older. And I was like, because I'm really enjoying them. And she goes, what, you want them to always be getting older because if not, there would be an issue and then we'd have another issue. So it was really, we want them to keep growing and going and thriving and, evolving.
100%. Oh, I love to hear it. So my last question for you, Whitney, is sort of about you as well, because obviously, you have your talk show, which I want you to plug all of that as well. Any podcasts that you're up to or anything like that too, please make sure we know where to follow you. Before we do that though, I would love to know any long-term kind of goals do you have coming forward? Obviously, when we're recording this, we're going into the new year of 2025. So what kind of, I don't know, intentions, goals, what do you have planned for the next upcoming year or so?
For a long time, it was to be where I am now. And so last year, I was sitting there and I'm like, wait, Whitney, everything you've ever wanted and worked for is what you're doing. It's time for you to really evaluate what's next or your bigger vision. And I remember very clearly it came to me. I was I was at our studio, which I now have my own studio. I have Oprah's old desk that we get to work off of. I mean, it's really like I said, this was the dream for so long. And I'll never forget. And I hear these whispers and I hope they never stop in the sense because I remember when I knew I needed to start the Whitney Reynolds show, and that was a little whisper in my ear. And it is literally the whisper was, you are going to be the strongest voice in media of hope. And when we dig deep with hope, I want to be that strong voice. So when people think of hope, it's like, I want to watch the Whitney show, or I want to listen to that segment on the radio. And so it's really one of those things that we are digging deep with hope, and to be the strongest voice of hope, we are doing crossovers. We are, spending more time and energy into the stories we're producing. And it's a really exciting time because I've never really gone there with my story and why I created the show I do. And I think that time, because all of the authors that make my interesting story, I think they're all at a place where we're all okay with it now, and we're all in a safe space that we can share with the world why I do what I do. And it was because of my difficult childhood. So I'm stepping into a very interesting time of, you know, opening up. So often people, start with their why they do it, and then like they hope everything else lands afterwards. We landed the show, but my why formed all of that. And so now being able to share my why as we go into, this next year will be a very, very interesting and exciting time for me, because I'll finally let to my viewers in on what makes me me, and then also the way that we tell deeper stories through all media. So that's really being the strongest voice of hope is what's next. And that's my lifelong goal. Like that's like it. Like literally, like that's what I want to be. When people think of hopeful television or media, that's us.
100%. Oh, Whitney, I am so grateful for your time today. Thank you for joining me, for being super, just very authentic. You always are, but
Thank
we're
you.
talking about a whole different topic that you probably don't talk about every day. I mean, you probably do because kids are our kids are our kids. We love our kids.
Yes.
We're always in the conversation, but to be able to like kind of have this one-on-one with you was really cool. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And I was going to say, I just want to champion you for doing this podcast, because it is one of those things that we need to, as mothers, be open, non-judgmental, not telling people how it's done, but like listening to like how maybe there's another way we could do it, or how we get through together, or how we can support each other. Because it kind of goes back to that whole subscription, is there's enough pie for everybody when it comes to your gift. But
Yes.
same with like mothers, we need to look at it as like we're in this together, and we need each other. And so if we can do that, then we're all winning.
100%. Oh, you said it so well. And I do hope that other moms can resonate. I hope that they can, take what they like, leave the rest. But I really do hope that a mom listening today feels inspired, feels seen. So again, I really appreciate you and your time. Where can we follow you on the old Instagram or any social?
Yes. Yeah, so our new season, we actually just wrapped it. It's going to hit in the spring of 25, and we are doing crossover events. So you'll be seeing me on a lot of different networks in this next year, but our home base for our national show is PBS, and it's the Whitney Reynolds show. It's one of those shows that we want people to always feel inspired, but we are having more household names and celebrities come on for their big story, which is really beautiful. And then we're also breaking that down on our social media in bite-sized chunks. So you don't have to watch the whole 30 minutes, but you can also find us on Instagram doing these 90-second like hits of hope. And it's right there at Whitney_Reynolds. You can also find me on WGN Radio, iHeartRadio, and WGN TV.
Awesome. Thank you, Whitney, so much for your time today.
Thank you. Bye, girl.